Time for our business update now with the Canterbury Employers Chamber of Commerce, and General Manager Michaela Blacklock is with me. Good morning.
Good morning.
Nice to see you. First of all, let's cover off the coronavirus. It seems to be going in all sorts of different directions now. How concerned is the Chamber about this?
This is a serious issue and something that we need to keep an eye on. I think people are using the words such as keep it in perspective, and we definitely need to do that.
Yeah.
But from an export trade perspective, this is something that has the potential to be quite challenging for our exporters, and already we're hearing stories from our exporters that would lead us to believe that there's going to be some challenge ahead. We're not seeing it in the numbers yet. We do expect those numbers to start to come through fairly shortly.
Because a lot of exporters export their products to China. When do you expect to start to see that, not backlash, but them being impacted? And what kind of contingency plans do they have in place? Because, of course, they must plan for these types of cases.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much that you can plan for, and certainly we're starting to see that in some sectors now, in particular those that have perishable product, started to see an almost immediate impact on their businesses. So for those businesses, some of the mitigating factors might be that they produce less. That's not going to help them to. It might help them to contain cost. It's not going to help them in terms of bringing in that revenue that they would ordinarily get from those markets.
Tell you what, if you worked in the sanitising business, you'd be probably a multi-millionaire by now. I can't believe all the products are off the shelf in all supermarkets in Christchurch and the warehouse with that sanitising product.
Pretty difficult to get, so we need to make sure we share.
What are you saying? No, you're not having mine? This is mine. Thank you very much, Michaela. Some good news, though. Central City spending is up. That's a good sign. That's a good news that the economy is doing okay, at least locally. Yeah,
it absolutely is. And it's really interesting when you look at a longer-term picture. When you look at the numbers from 2015 to 2020, we've seen a 200% increase in spending in that core Central City area. And then you shrink that down to look at a shorter time horizon. The lead up to Christmas was brilliant with a 17% increase, and then January with 11.3% increase. So we're really starting to see people coming back into the Central City and making it part of their kind of every weekly kind of routine to come in and do some activities and spend time in the Central City, which is great.
Do you expect this trend to continue, or is there some, I hate to be the pessimist here, but with winter coming along eventually, will that make life challenging, or what do you do in that situation?
Yeah, certainly things are more challenging in the winter months for those businesses, in particular in the Central City. People tend to get out and about a little bit less, but my view is rug up, get into the Central City and see, sort of get amongst it. I think aside from the challenge that can come with the cooler weather, when that eventually does come, it's not here yet. Is also kind of that potential for that impact of the City Council choosing to increase that parking fee.
What do we think about that? Because it's a proposal at this stage, but proposals always mean, you know what that means, it's always a foregone conclusion, to be honest with you, in my view. That seemed a bit nutty. Look, increasing parking in the city.
Really support the council looking for different sources of revenue. That's a great way to look to potentially offset some rate increases, and I understand that there's pressure in the system. However, when something like this happens, when we've got really good forward momentum in the Central City, when we are moving in the next few months into the cooler months, which we know are traditionally more challenging, the timing of it is not great, and I do have to wonder if there were opportunities to look at other ways to potentially raise that revenue without impacting on what we might see as the engine room of our city.
I know that a few bars have closed down, particularly down St Asaph Street. What is it about us residents? It's either one thing or the other. We don't seem to have the ability to go to different types of places. Or do you think the terrace has been such a success story that people just like the fact they can go to different bars and restaurants in one location, so you don't have to think?
Oh, I think perhaps that's part of it. I think as residents we can challenge each other. I know that, you know, in different groups that I hang out with, we challenge each other to go to new places. And,
it's so important.
Yeah, and I think having that open mind, talking amongst colleagues, you know, what did you do on the weekend is a really good way to find new places that you can go. Some people do tend to be creatures of habit, but it's good to bust out every once in a while.
Yeah, I need to. Last year I was trying to go to different restaurants and cafes, and this year I've just thought, I've become lazy already. I'm going to places that I know that I'm going to get good food straight away, which is not a bad thing, but you've got to try new things, right?
Oh, I think it's important that we do get out and about and try some new things. And you do have your favourites. We're all human. But there's new offerings coming on stream all the time. And you get out and about, you try those things out, and you have great experiences there as well, and then you share those with your friends. So. Yeah.
Just overall, I was talking to somebody on Facebook last night, and they were saying to me, Chris, it seems like when he was driving around the Central Cities, often listening to this program, he was saying to me, it feels like things have stopped in terms of the momentum, in terms of the build. And I wondered if you thought there's any truth in that. Of course, you got the convention centre, but I think if your business model is hoping that a convention centre is going to change your business, you probably shouldn't be in business in the first place. But I wondered what your thoughts were. Have we lost a little bit of momentum when it comes to building, or do you think it's steady as she goes?
Yeah, I think we're still steady. So if you take something like the convention centre, for example, I was just chatting with someone who's kind of a little bit on the inside recently and asking some questions, because I've noticed that the panelling on one side seems to have come to a bit of a halt, and I was asking, is that because they're doing things on the inside of the building? And that's exactly it. So it's a little bit like sometimes when you see an empty site is empty for a long period of time, then all of a sudden something springs up. There's an awful lot of work that goes on, either inside buildings, refitting them, or behind the scenes before something starts that we don't see. So to me, walking around the city, I live in the central city and I walk around it frequently, it feels like there's still a steady program of rebuild happening.
That's good. That makes me feel better.
Good.
I'll send you the invoice for counselling, or send me the invoice for counselling. Michaela Blacklock, nice to see you again. Thanks for your time this morning.
Thank you.
So to come, some actors in the Court Theatre are in the house to discuss a new production of a streetcar named Desire.